I wanted to introduce our next guest. Anne McElhinney is a journalist and film producer and director. She's also written for and is a regular contributor to a number of different international media organizations and a regular on a number of U.S. Talk radio shows. McElhinney has worked as a journalist and filmmaker in the U.S., Canada, Cambodia, Indonesia, China, Chile, and Uganda. Her most recent success is a massive crowdfunding campaign for a movie about Kermit Gosnell, who we know a lot about, the abortionist known for his horrific work in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So she used the internet to get the funds for this movie. Please welcome Anne McElhinney by way of Skype.
Thank you very, very much for inviting me to be part of this amazing event today. I especially want to thank the FRC, who have been so supportive to us with the film. As many of you know, we had an incredibly successful crowdfunding campaign, amazing, miraculous, extraordinary, not without its hiccups, by the way, which I think is worth sort of telling you that story, because obviously you know what it's like to face opposition when you're trying to do your work. And as many of you know, we originally went to do the crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter, which is, the most established of all the crowdfunding sites. And, we had done a successful campaign on Kickstarter before for our previous film, Frack Nation. And we thought, there'll be no problem here. We submit, they don't curate their projects. So we submitted our project to Kickstarter, and what happened was very unusual. The Kickstarter wrote back and said we couldn't use the phrase murdered, stabbed, dead babies. We couldn't say thousands of babies murdered, which of course is what Gosnell did. So we were going to be forced to do a crowdfunding campaign about a film, but we couldn't say what the film was about, which gives you an idea of the kind of thing that people who say they're liberal, who say they want diversity, who say they want people to do creative projects, pay lip service often to those truths and actually don't do it in practice. What we did then was we left Kickstarter, we went to Indiegogo, and we started our campaign there. And as I said, the Family Research Council, among many others, were extremely helpful in making this film the reality that it's becoming right now. 26,000 people from all over the country and from all over the world sent in money. And actually, the campaign has reopened. So anyone out there who'd like to send $1, we'd be very grateful for it, because we'd like that number of 26,000 to be 100,000 people. And why is the story important? I think Gosnell is a story. There's so many things about it that are worthwhile, not least of which the fact that the mainstream media decided to completely ignore the story. I mean, if you ask people, lots of people around the United States, have they heard of this story? They've never heard of it. They've never heard of Gosnell. No one knows who his name is. And our ambition is to make Gosnell a household name in America, that everyone would know that he is the biggest serial killer in the country, the biggest serial killer in American history. And he deserves that title. He ran an abortion clinic, as many of you know, in Philadelphia. That abortion clinic was not inspected for over 17 years, mostly because of the actions of a Republican governor, Governor Ridge, who wanted to be popular, I suppose, and didn't want any opposition to abortion clinics. And so for 17 years, because of that, this man was allowed to butcher women and children without any opposition from the health services or from the government in Pennsylvania. It's just beyond belief. The health services were closing down nail salons while this man was operating. I want to tell two stories, and I want to tell them very quickly. I know I've got limited amount of time, but I want to tell two very quick stories that I think are very pertinent to this story, and stories that will come out in the film. One is a very sad story, and one is a happy story. And the sad story is a story of a woman, and she gave testimony in court. I'm putting all of this on Facebook, by the way, so anyone who wants to know what's happening with Gosnell, with the Gosnell film, just go to the Gosnell Facebook page or go to gosnellmovie.com. And this woman testified on April the 10th, 2013. She was 15 when she had her abortion at Gosnell's clinic. And the prosecutor said to her, do you know how many sticks he put in you? No. Did you have any conversations with the doctor before he did the ultrasound or put the sticks into you? Yes, I asked him what the sex of my baby was, and he told me, if I'm good enough, I can know, but he never told me. Why did you want to know the sex? This is the prosecutor asking the question. And here's the answer. Because I just, because I like, I, because could have, that could have made me think like, well, I don't know. I just wanted to know. Could have made you think what, Shanice? It's okay. I still wanted to keep her. So like, if I would have known more about the situation, I would have definitely made my decision on what I wanted to do. And I would have talked it over with my mum because my mum asked me, are you comfortable? Are you sure? So, and the prosecutor says, were you comfortable? Are you sure about your decision? And she says, no. Did you ever find out the sex of your baby? And the answer is no. And that was the baby in question. That's the baby. Can everyone see that? That's the baby that was aborted. The procedure was a 3-day procedure, and on the first day he put the sticks in, and she went home and got into difficulty and had to go to the local hospital where that baby was delivered, stillborn. It's one of the babies that Gosnell was eventually convicted of murdering. The other story I want to tell, and I always tell, and it's interesting, it's one of the stories I had, it made me cry when I read it from the grand jury report during the campaign. And it's the story of a girl, and she gave evidence during the grand jury. The grand jury for the Gosnell case sat for 2 years. And for those of you who know a lot about Gosnell, you can imagine what they heard and what they looked at and the evidence that they saw presented to them for 2 years. It was gruesome, and they were commended by everyone. Everyone said they did an amazing job, and they were powerful people. 50 people who did that for 2 years. But the amazing story was, so this girl goes in, and she was having an abortion at 29 weeks, and she was in there, and she was sort of in denial. It sounds to me like she was very much in denial about what was happening. And she's lying on the bed on the first day of, again, of one of these 3-day procedures, and Gosnell says to her, she says to Gosnell, what happens to the babies? What happens to the babies afterwards? And he says, oh, we burn them. And she went home that night. She was really disturbed. She spoke to her cousin and discussed the whole thing over and over with her cousin. And the cousin phoned Gosnell to see if they could reverse it. And he said, no, I don't do reversals. And by the way, you're not getting your money back. And, you know, she's there in the grand jury. She's telling this story. And the prosecutor says, oh, well, what happened then? And she looks at the prosecutor and she says, oh, my baby started kindergarten today. And for the first time in anyone's memory in the history of Pennsylvania, the grand jury stood up and applauded. So in Gosnell, there are some positive stories, and I wanted to share that one with you. And that story will certainly be in the film Gosnell. Again, if anyone out there would like to give us $1 as a vote for this film and for this truth to be told, finally told, and for Gosnell to get his place in the annals of serial killers, please do that and do it today, gosnellmovie.com. And thank you so much for having me here.
Thanks to Anne for giving us information about the movie Gosnell, and to see how the power of media helped to fundraise. I think they fundraised at least $2 or so million for this movie, and people coming together saying, we want a story about this. We want the story to be told, because there was a media blackout when it was happening. And for us to get that story out there, and for the online community to come together and say, we're going to support this. So I really recommend that you do go on there and support their work. And we are going to change culture inside and out, not only by being present today and speaking to our family and friends, but also by supporting new media in the Hollywood, because this is changing culture from inside and out. If we put more pro-life films out there, we're going to change that culture itself through those means.